Hello, everyone. This is Stacy. Welcome to the landing. Hello, everyone. This is Stacy. Welcome to the landing. Hello, and welcome back to the landing. Our special guest today is a very special lady that has been part of all my life, and that is Miss Jan Willis Gillikin. I know her as Nurse Jan, Miss Jan. So let's jump right in, and I want you all to meet her, and then we'll get started talking about what we're here for. So Miss Jan, tell us who you are, who's your crowd, where you're from.
Hi, folks. I'm Sarah Janet Willis Gillikin. When I was married, I decided to drop my first name, which was Sarah, so that I would not have such a long name to write. So I am, to everybody's knowledge, Janet Willis Gillikin. And I married an Otway boy called Walker Gillikin. And he was a basketball player. He was able to go to college with a basketball scholarship. And he became a principal and a coach at Havelock. And we lived there for 3 years. And then I am a Harkers Island native and proud of it. So there was property behind my mother's home place where I grew up, and we were able to purchase that property and build a home. In 1964, I became Harkers Island resident again. We had 3 children. The oldest was Craig. He became a dentist. The middle girl was Willa. She became a nurse. And my youngest son is Jonathan, and he is a nurse also. And I am doggone proud of my children. My older children, 2 older children, my son, had heart surgery and passed away 6 weeks after that. I was sorry, but he inherited cholesterol problems from his daddy. I blame all the problems my children had on their daddy, bless his heart. But anyway, my second daughter became a severe diabetic and wound up at Duke Hospital. She was a nurse working at the hospital in Moorhead and caught pneumonia. And they had to send her to Chapel Hill, and she was there 4 months. And because of the tragedy of the pneumonia, the circulation from her hands and feet was cut off. So she became a quad amputee, wound up with prosthesis, and lived quite as normal a life as a person can live with that handicap. So I was really proud of her, and she died 5 years ago. So I only have 1 child now that's living, and I'm still on Harkers Island in my home place, and he is not practicing nursing anymore, but he's tending to Mama Jan. And I am so happy that he decided to move from Raleigh and come here to live close to me and take care of me. And he is doing a wonderful job.
Yes, he's a good nurse, isn't he?
He is a good nurse.
He loves his mama. Well, Miss Jan, it is so good to see you after all these years. It's been a while, but I am so excited to hear what you have to share with us today. You are going to talk to us a little bit about your education. And of course, that all began here on Harkers Island, that beautiful Harkers Island that we love so much. So I want you to take us back and tell us a little bit, because you attended what we call here on the island the old schoolhouse. So tell us a little bit. I'm going to throw it right back to you and see what you want to share with us.
I will go back a little bit before that, because my mother's people were the Davises. That was Stacy W. Davis and Sarah Lewis Davis. She was from, as we say on the island, Sarah was from the western, and Stacy was from the eastern. Papa Stacy was a good fisherman, and I think most of the men on the island were maybe a little bit jealous because he was successful at everything he did, and he was the forerunner of the party boat fishing. He would go shrimping at night and then stay up and take half-day parties out by Cape Lookout, offshore of Cape Lookout, and they would go trolling and so forth. And he had a very lucrative business, but he did not believe in banks. So when there was the crash of 33, he wouldn't put any more money in the bank, so he would put money in mason jars and bury them in the backyard. So now the fun thing that all the Davis kids say, let's go get the Geiger counter and go in the backyard to see if we can find any of Papa's money.
We'll do that when we finish. We'll go look some more.
But anyway, Mama was a good mama. I was very sick when I was 3 months old. And I had meningitis, and they had to send me to Seabears Hospital. Mama was 17 years old, and I was nursing, so I was born in March, and this was July that I wound up at Seabears Hospital. Almost died, but Mama was nursing me, so she had to go up there with me and put on no air conditioners back then. Had to put on this robe and mask and everything to come in to feed me. Now, that was a good 17-year-old mama that would do that.
Yes.
Now, later on, I didn't like Mama because they spoiled me so bad she had to be strict with me. She whipped me with peach tree switches all the time. And I was spoiled, and Papa Eddie loved me so good. He would walk down the street, Mama would know who was coming. And if I had shorts on, they showed where she had whipped me with the peach tree switch. So she put long pants on me and threatened to kill me if I told him I had been whipped. But anyway, as life went on, I was able to attend the old school that was built next door to the Methodist church. And the school was, I'd call it brown or rust color shingled school, and it was built in 3 sections, even though the sections were connected. And on the western side of the school, it was a T-shaped, and the back room was the first grade, and that was Miss Lina is the teacher I remember from the first grade. The second grade was across the hall in the front of the school, and that was Miss Mabel Ellis was the teacher there. And there was one day we were able to, if we wanted to bring a show and tell or anything like that, we could bring it. So I decided I'd bring my 4-year-old little brother to school with me that day. And, of course, he was rambunctious and wouldn't behave. So she put him in the closet and scared the life out of him. And my mama was not happy with her when I went home and told her. So they had words. But Miss Mabel was a good teacher. She was from, as we say, off. I can't recall right now where. But she came on the mailboat to Harkers Island. And the man that was helping them unload their baggage was Fred Guthrie. Well, he saw 5'10" Miss Mabel getting off of that mailboat, and he was only about 5'2" himself, and he fell in love with her and married her. And she could play the piano so well. And I remember her, she had diamond rings, and they stuck up really far on her finger, and I thought they were the cutest and the prettiest rings that I had ever seen. life went on, and I was in the first grade with Miss Lina, second grade with Miss Mabel. Then I went to the third grade. I don't know if this was her name, but we named her, we called her Miss Pickle Simon.
I've heard Mama say her.
And I don't know if she had any other name or not, but that was the name we all thought about and called her. Yeah. So that was the third grade, and it went from one end of the school way down the hall, from the first to second grade, to the western end of the school, way down the hall to the eastern end of the school, and the front east room was the third grade, and that was Miss Pickle Simon. And then the next grade across the hall was Miss Thelma Harris. She was such a good teacher. I learned so much in the fourth grade. Had to learn the multiplication tables in the fourth grade. I said, I'll never learn them. So even today, I can't tell you what 8 times 7 is, but I can tell you what 7 times 8 is. But Miss Sudie Guthrie was my 5th grade teacher, and God bless her, she came from Atlantic, and she was a educated lady. I'm telling you that. I think Atlantic at that time was considered a graduate school for teachers, because there were so many that went to the other schools that had graduated. Graduation back then was through the 11th grade, but I think Atlantic had one more grade you could go to, and that was considered like graduating from college.
Oh, wow.
So they had a teacher's education program, and a lot of them went to the other schools around the county to teach because of that extra year of education. Miss Sudie had a sad year. She was a wonderful teacher, but her husband died that year, and bless her heart, we would see her, and she'd get through the classes all right, but we'd see her with her head down, and we would not bother her because we knew she was crying because she had lost her husband. Now I'm crying because of it. But anyway, Miss Sudie was a wonderful lady, and she lived here. Gosh, I reckon she was in her 90s before she passed away. But she was a high class, nice lady. And then for the 7th grade, we were able to have a Mr. Davis that had fought in, I believe it was the Korean War. And he, after he would finish with his classes, he would tell us stories, what he had experienced during his war service. Oh, and, wow. Of course, we were infatuated with that. We loved every word he said. And he was a very good teacher. And then our 8th grade teacher was also our principal, and that was Mrs. Emma Wade. And she was one of those dainty ladies that spoke very softly, but you minded her. Anything she told you to do, you did it. And she had a very quiet classroom, and if she caught you chewing, most of us loved chewing gum, and that's what we had to write. I must not chew chewing gum in school. We'd have to write it if we got caught, but we loved bubble gum. Bazooka bubblegum was the favorite of us all. And guess what we had to do afterwards? Because we held it in our jaw so long, we'd have rotten teeth and had to go to the dentist. Lord have mercy.
Now, I'm gonna interject right here, because Harkers School went through 8th grade.
Yes.
Is that right? Now, tell me just a little bit about classroom order. Like, were the classes really disciplined? How did things go? Was it very scheduled? Was it yes ma'am, no ma'am, please, thank you? How was the atmosphere in school?
Very, very, very ordered. They usually set us as our last name. They set us like, if you were Willis, you were set in sort of the last of the class. If your name hadn't start with A, you would be at the front of the class. Mm-hmm. So they'd line us like that. And I remember all the classrooms being very orderly, no running around. I mean, if the teacher happened to go out of the room, we'd use a spitball, and we might throw a spitball at somebody. But it was a very orderly classes that I remember. I don't remember anything that was.
You went there to learn.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. What Mom and Daddy told me: if you get a whipping at school, you're going to get one when you get home. Because they figured that I had done something bad enough to earn a whipping at school. I needed another whipping to make it sure that it stuck. Yeah. That I never did anymore.
That you did not do that again.
No.
Okay, so now when you left Harkers Island after 8th grade, was there a ceremony or anything like that, or did you just move on? Because now, they do a little ceremony.
I recall that every Friday we would have chapel programs at the school on Harkers Island, and different, like the first grade would be in charge of it this week, second grade maybe the next week, and so forth. And there would be programs that we would get together and have, and they had whoever would lead it. We would have sometime during the year what we call operetta programs. And it would be a big production. And I remember one year I had to dress up like a cat. And there was several of us, that was part of the program. And then whoever could learn and memorize the lines better took the main action part of it. And we had a big chapel area in the school. An auditorium. I mean, a big auditorium. It had about 100 seats in it.
Wow.
And it was a place that they allowed, like at night, if any organizations needed to meet, they were allowed to go there and have their meetings too. And I know we had a charitable brotherhood lodge on Harkers Island. And that lodge was also purchased by Earl Davis and used for our theater too. It was called the Charity Theater.
Oh, really?
And Frank Moore would help Earl do the movies and so forth. And that was a very popular place on Friday and Saturday nights especially.
Oh, I bet.
We enjoyed going. And my dad at that time was helping his father-in-law, Stacy Davis, with his fish house. And he hated it when the fishermen would come in on Saturday nights and they'd take the phone. Gordon, you're wanted at the fish house. Gordon Willis being called at the fish house. He did not like that at all.
I bet not.
But we enjoyed going to the theater on Saturday nights. And after the theater, we'd go across the street to Fillmore's store. And that cinder block building is still there, and it is called the Fish Hook at this time. But we'd go over there, and he'd get us a milkshake. That Mom and Daddy would buy. Jan and Fran, that was all that was in the family at that time. And they'd divide that milkshake between us. And I wanted a whole milkshake myself. I didn't want to share it with nobody, but I never did get one. I always got to have one.
I'd like to have a half one right now. Oh, my goodness. Okay, so what was your favorite subject in school?
I don't recall that I had a favorite one. I just tried to study, and my mama wanted me to be an Einstein. Well, I was just not an Einstein student. I was a B+, A- student. But there was a girl in our class that she could memorize anything. She could read you a page out of a book and close the book and repeat that. And that was Almeda Willis.
Yes.
And Mama always wanted to compare me with poor Almeda. What did Almeda make on her report card? I showed Mama mine, and I thought it was pretty good. A-, B+. But anyway, she tried to see how close I had come to keeping up with the smartest girl in the class, which was Almeda Willis.
Almeda, she does have a memory. Oh, my goodness. She always did have a memory. That was amazing.
Had two smart girls, too.
Oh, yes. Oh, my goodness. Okay, so after 8th grade, where did you go?
Oh, were we nervous. We had to go across the Harkers Island Bridge to a place called Smyrna, Consolidated High School. That's where we started the 9th grade. And we poor benighted. Is that a good word to use? Look that word up if you don't know it. They thought we were benighted, but we actually, after we got adjusted to go into a big school, and we had this long hall we had to walk down. The school was so large at the time, we would have two 9th grades, 2 10th grades, 2 11th grades, and probably by the 12th grade we were, enough of them had gotten married or quit school because they wanted to go fishing. Some of the boys like that. There was enough of us that we could fit in one actual room. So they put us by our names, and I was with the Whitehurst and the Willises and the whoever else the W's were. I can't remember them right now, but anyway. That's the way that was. And our homeroom teacher was Barbara Willis, and she was the sweetest, nicest woman I believe I have ever met. She was quiet spoken. She didn't never raise her voice, but you could hear a pin drop in her classroom. And she taught us English, and she was wonderful. Right now I believe I could draw you diagram sentence. Yes, she was so good. And I'm glad of that because since then I have done a little bit of writing myself, and I would be able to conjugate verbs and put them in the order of what you had, if you had spoken it yesterday or you were going to speak it tomorrow, what verb you would need to use. So I'd so appreciate it how she taught us that. It has meant a lot to me in my life. Now, we had a real good math teacher, Miss Simpson, and even though math seemed to be hard for other people, the ones that had Miss Simpson didn't think it was hard because she knew how to teach us. If a teacher knows how to teach a child so that they enjoy it and they can learn.
Right.
But
yeah,
if they make it so hard for them and they're scared to death of the teacher, I don't believe they're going to learn that much.
Yeah, it does make a difference. Well, what was the biggest thing about going to Smyrna High School? I mean, I know it's high school, so you have athletic teams, you have things going on. What are give me a memory that you have.
I'll tell you the first bad thing they had. It was a wonderful thing, but I thought it was bad. I can't carry a tune on the grindstone. Well, they had a choral club, and I wanted to be in the choral club, and you had to practice singing before they would accept you because as many people wanted to be in the choral club. Well, they wanted me to start singing, and I couldn't sing by myself. So one of the older girls, Hazel Lynch, says, "You come up here and I'll sing with you." So she was the one I can check off and say she's the only reason I got in the choral club. But they had the 4-H, and I was a member of that. And I loved home ec. Mrs. Garner was our teacher, and I loved home ec, and we would sew. I was a good sewer. Mama made sure that Mama was also a good sewer. So anything I didn't learn from a teacher there, I brought it home. Mama taught me at home how to do it. So, but I consider myself pretty good at home ec. And I made it through all the subjects I was supposed to, and I graduated in 1957. And the biggest thing I can tell you about high school is I met my Walker Gillikin. William Walker Gillikin. Most handsome guy in the school. And we were high school sweethearts. And then I graduated in 1957 from Smyrna School. I started nurses training in 1957. And I also married my high school sweetheart, Walker Gillikin, in 1957. So that was a interesting.
It was an outstanding year.
Outstanding year for Janet Willis Gillikin.
Well, Miss Jan, I want to close on this. If you were to give some advice to a student now about their education, what would you tell them?
You were born with a talent, or maybe several talents. Whatever you find out that talent is, do it to the very best of your ability. Keep your nose clean, stay out of trouble, and practice your talent to the glory of the Lord.
I love that. Well, our time has flown, and I have enjoyed every second of it.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you for being with us today, and I look forward to catching up and seeing you more often. It's been too long.
Well, thank you. I would love for you to call ahead of time and make sure that I'm halfway respected.
I would do it. And I love you, Miss Jan.
Thank you, dear. I appreciate it. And kin folks are always special in my life.
Oh, always. Well, thank you.
You are certainly welcome. Come back anytime.
What a treat to sit and reminisce with Miss Jan. I was privileged to know her as Nurse Jan, for she was a Carteret County school nurse throughout my education. She retired from that role after 28 years. What a kind and special lady. Be sure to join us next week when we shift gears from education to living off the water. I'm excited for you to come along with me as we speak with some of the most hardworking folks I have ever met. Next week, we will begin this journey with Mr. Carroll Hill. Don't miss it. Until then, stay safe and be kind.